What does that tell you? I'm sure it's not necessarily a surprise.
No, it's not a surprise, but it certainly reflects the way things have changed over the past few years. This was the first time since 2014 that HBO did not take home one of the top prizes: Best Comedy, Best Drama, Best Limited Series. Notably, HBO itself did not have any of the nominees. It was HBO Max, the Max size, that did. And then, of course, we had Netflix's first win, Apple's first win, and Disney Plus's second year with a Best Series nomination. Things have changed.
Would you say this is a changing of the guard? Can Netflix and Apple hold on to these leads, if you will?
I would say the changing of the guards happened several years ago. Netflix has often led in total nominations. Where it lagged was in the wins. But certainly if you take a look back to, I think, 2015, that was the first year in which the streaming or streaming-centric networks had the majority of nominations.
So where does that leave Amazon, where, of course, you used to work? I mean, are we seeing a consolidation here in terms of the folks who can really compete and lead the pack?
I certainly wouldn't count Amazon out. Certainly they had their first nod for The Boys, another outstanding show that was on former President Obama's top of the year list. And then separately, we had the perennial winner, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which did not air during the period. And so I would expect that going forward, we see more strength. But for the most part, we should look forward to a future in which HBO Max, Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, and Hulu do, in fact, dominate year over year, probably taking 7 of 8 nominations in every single win.
Do you think there's a quality versus quantity problem? It's as if there are so many amazing shows out there, but sometimes it's hard to find them. You know, I'm done watching Ted Lasso, and I don't know what's next.
There was always a demand for another outstanding high-quality television series, but I think what is clear is how the lack of scale disadvantages a program's shot at success. For All Mankind was an outstanding show on Apple, but it was probably disadvantaged by the fact that Apple had a very small audience, just in the same way that Ted Lasso benefits in the second year from a much larger Apple. When you take a look at a show like Queen's Gambit, one Best Limited Series, one of the biggest shows of the pandemic, I would guess that had that aired on a smaller network, perhaps a Showtime or an Epix, it would not have been the hit that it was. That's a reflection not just of outstanding storytelling, but the consequence of the platform chosen.
Bloomberg Intelligence just published a report saying that Disney Plus, they believe, could surpass Netflix in terms of subscribers in 3 years. What are your thoughts on that?
I think when you take a look at the global market, we see over 750 million ex-China pay TV homes. By the end of the decade, that is probably a figure at 900 to 1 billion homes. There are many countries that have never paid for pay TV, and when they have, it's a bare fraction of the audience: Japan, Portugal. We're probably looking at a future where the largest streaming services have 300, 400, potentially 500 million households. I think it's unclear whether or not it's going to be Netflix or Disney at the top.
Now, your Metaverse fund, meantime, just surpassed $100 million in assets under management, and I know you think this could be a multi-trillion opportunity. It'll take over the current economy. How and when do you see that happening, and what sort of entertaining happens within that?
It's a great question. The CEO and founder of NVIDIA recently said that he believes that the economy of the metaverse will exceed that of the physical world. And that is mostly based on the fact that most of the future world will run in one way, shape, or form through the metaverse, much like most of the world today is dependent upon the internet. That's a multi-decade transformation, but at least over the next decade, I think we can see substantial shifts of entertainment, of healthcare, of communications, as well as many other categories such as fitness or meditation shift over.
There's so much battling now for who will own the metaverse. You know, you've got Epic and BALENCIAGA launching this high fashion collaboration through FORTNITE. You've got Mark Zuckerberg also saying he wants to own the metaverse. And yet the vision that's painted is of a decentralized future. What will the role of actual companies be in the metaverse, and how will some of these sort of ethical questions of who runs the metaverse be answered?
I think the best way to think about this question is to compare so-called Web 2.0 with the original web. Even today, we have some of the most powerful companies in the world controlling most of what we do online. At the same time, none of these platforms is the internet. Apple is not the internet. Facebook, Google, Amazon are not the internet. They're very powerful, horizontal, and vertically integrated platforms. So in the future, the likely outcome is that we have a similar construct. There are very powerful companies, but they are not the metaverse. They are dominant participants in it. And yet, if you go to the early web, it was far more decentralized. AOL at the peak of its power, Yahoo at the peak of its power, even Facebook, before many of the big tech giants had emerged, had nowhere near the control that they do today. The big hope among the decentral community is simply that the metaverse will be less controlled than it is today, but certainly there will be dominant players.